Yo, what up, Street Dogs? There, Kim. Alright, so the thought. Life is the ultimate MMORPG. So, based on where you're standing, the question is, do you stay indoors or do you venture outwards? I say let us venture outwards. So, first and foremost, just know that life is the ultimate MMORPG. And it seems that actually life is far more interesting when we go outdoors, when we explore the world and we just kind of go out and do stuff. So the biggest ill I think we have in modern day times is everybody just wants to stay at home and wants to live life vicariously through other adventurers, and everyone wants comfort, pleasure, luxury, and they want freedom from pain, disturbance, bother, and whatnot. So the big things, even having the pleasure to walk, to stand on your own two legs and to see stuff, is one of the greatest pleasures that life affords us, because in the world there's so many beautiful visual things we could see and witness, and how much of a shame it is that like most of us either squander the opportunity or we don't have the courage to actually go outside and go outdoors, because certainly we humans were not designed or birthed for pleasure and to just stay home and indoors all day, but we're born to be adventurers, conquerors, explorers. And even if I think about the early days when I used to love to play like the Legend of Zelda and stuff like that, is that, you know, you as Link, you start off in the little house, right? And you have no weapons, you got no items, you got none, right? And effectively the point of your life, or the point of the game, is you obviously leave the house and you go exploring. And I think perhaps modernity is all about anti-exploration. I mean, we kind of did start getting a taste of this with, like, you know, digital nomads or people who travel and stuff like that, but now it seems that travel's kind of on lockdown. Maybe that's not really a possibility. So just like a very practical, pragmatic thing you could do is go exploring in your own city, go exploring in your own downtown area, just even walk around the block and see how far you go walk and see all the interesting visual things you could witness. And it seems like my personal joy is to just share my view and my perspective with others, and there's no better or worse view perspective. So it could be quite literal, right? It could be quite literally sharing the visual views of what you see and what you witness, or it could just be, you know, just metaphorically speaking, right, is what do you see and witness. And this is where I do think that there is certainly an upside to, you know, an upside to shooting 4K, an upside to shooting more like high resolution video, because it does seem life is more interesting when we go on adventures and share all these details with others. Now, I know for myself, personally speaking, when I spend too much time indoors, I feel like my physiology kind of like shut down, like my bodily functions kind of shut down. And certainly when I'm sitting down, I feel like my body's kind of going into hibernation mode. And ever since I was a kid, I was very quote hyperactive. And perhaps being hyperactive was one of the best benefits that I actually had as a kid. And the problem about schooling is schools discourage children from running around. Schools encourage kids to sit down, shut the fuck up, pay attention to the teacher, become good test takers. And therefore, modern society, we have just bred a bunch of peoples who are good rule listeners, test takers, a bunch of nerds with no taste of adventure. We've created a society of good consumers, obedient servants and slaves. And there does seem like certainly a lack of individuals with individual thought, free spirits, and also even in America where individuality and everything is triumphed, for the most part individuality is also lacking in America. And I know I could personally witness this, is that like I know very few people who are free thinkers, people who don't consume media, people who, you know, who don't follow the news, and people who, you know, want to become more, I suppose, philosophically minded or whatnot. And I think the biggest problem is most people lack the courage because they were never encouraged as children to essentially think for themselves. And I'm just kind of lucky because my mom taught me to think for myself, and half the time she wasn't even home because she was always working. Not really her fault, but that was great for me as a child because it afforded me the opportunity to explore more, think more, wander more, and essentially kind of be like a free-range kid with lots of opportunities to do epic fun stuff. And also because I was a boy, my mom really didn't care a trip that I'd be going out, and she didn't really worry too much about when I'd come back home and stuff like that. And so certainly as a child growing up, I had a very fruitful childhood and upbringing, being able to see things and witness things and to essentially explore the world, explore the natural world, kind of like Calvin and Hobbes style, right? And so if we think that life is the ultimate MMORPG, what is the best way to live life? Certainly it's not to just stay at home and watch Avengers. It's for us perhaps to become our own adventures, to kick stuff around, to look at stuff, to explore, and essentially to treat your own life like a POV thing. And you could kind of share your perspectives with others. This thing's kind of cool. Kind of like that. So essentially the gist is, yeah, like you're the hero in this MMORPG of life. How does one live more, that's more fun? It's an emphasis on leveling up, going to new places, to go on more explorations. Like, consider, like, let's say life is like Diablo 2. You start off with no weapons, no none, and you're in Tristram. You know, the point of your life isn't to just like sit down with Deckard Cain and have him tell you all the stories. No, it's for you to go exploring, to fight metaphorical monsters, whatever, for you to get new weapon, get new gear. And simply put, like in today's modern times, equipment and gear is just like having a nice Gore-Tex jacket, or maybe even leveling up is lifting weights, doing a bunch of bodyweight exercises and walking and moving a lot to improve your dexterity, intelligence, read philosophy, or you know, stuff like that. And also for us to create, for us to be artists, for us to be wanderers, for us to have the courage to refuse to obey convention, and for us to keep exploring, because the world is the best RPG ever, with the best graphics and best refresh rate and the best levels.